Namaskar Mandali, मेरा नाम है सिद्धेश and today I'm going to start a new journey. My plan is to go on a virtual tour of India and learn as much as I can about our own beloved country, अपना प्यारा भारत देश. मेरे देश की धरती. The first destination on this journey is the Union Territory of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Why Andaman and Nicobar Islands? क्योंकि मैं alphabetically start कर रहा हूँ and Andaman and Nicobar Islands are at the top of the states and union territories of India. I enjoy watching geography now on YouTube and they cover the nations of the world in alphabetical order. So I thought why not do the same for the states and union territories of India? तर चला चालू करूया. मेरे देश की धरती. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये अंडमान एंड निकोबार आइलैंड्स है किधर? भैया अंडमान एंड निकोबार आइलैंड्स चलोगे? नहीं वो हमको उल्टा पड़ता है. Andaman and Nicobar Islands are a group of islands located between Bay of Bengal and Andaman Sea, and as we have learned in previous videos, a group of islands is also called archipelago. By the way, Andaman and Nicobar Islands को short में ANI भी बोलते हैं, तो मैं अब से ANI बोलूँगा. ANI consists of 350 to 500 islands. Why such a big range? Depends on what you call an island. Some islands are so small that you can't even park a car there. Yeah, वो देख island. अरे वो मगरमच्छ है. Regardless, out of the 500 or so islands, only 38 पे लोग रहते हैं. बाकी सब ऐसा ही है. Time pass. The Andaman group has more than 300 islands, whereas the Nicobar group is much smaller and has only 20 something islands. तुम लोग ने चैनल के बारे में तो सुना होगा. English channel, which separates England from Europe. वैसे ही there is this 10-degree channel which separates the Andaman group from the Nicobar group. The only volcano in India is also located on Barren Island in ANI. It is an active volcano and it last erupted in 2017. There are also mud volcanoes on these islands. जैसे normal volcano में से lava बाहर आता है, वैसे mud volcano में से कीचड़ बाहर आता है. The capital of Andaman and Nicobar Islands is Port Blair. It is approximately 1200 km from Kolkata and Chennai. The northernmost point of the islands is 190 km from Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. The southernmost island is Great Nicobar and the southernmost point on the island, Indira Point, is 150 km from Indonesia. Indira Point is also the southernmost tip of India. If you are like me and are wondering ये अंडमान एंड निकोबार आइलैंड्स तो इंडिया से ज्यादा नजदीक म्यांमार और इंडोनेशिया से तो अपने खाते में कैसे आ गया? Let's look at the history. Maybe that will help us solve this mystery. As such, no country or kingdom had actually claimed these islands for a long time. There are accounts of travelers like Marco Polo bumping into these islands and mentioning them in their diaries. Then there are 11th century accounts of Rajendra Chola I using the islands as a naval base when he was attacking the Srivijaya Empire, which used to be in the present day Indonesia. Even Europeans like Austrians, French, the Danes tried their hand at colonizing these islands, but they didn't last very long. Malaria and other diseases drove them away. Hey, इधर मच्छर कितना है यार? But it was eventually the British who managed to tame the islands. The main driving force behind developing the islands was the Mutiny of 1857, also known as India's first war of independence. During the war, the Britishers had captured a lot of prisoners and they wanted to keep them somewhere far away from the local Indians so that they would not influence them again and lead to another mutiny. They thought islands in the middle of nowhere would be the perfect location for a prison, and in 1858 established a penal settlement in Port Blair, known as the Cellular Jail, which would later get the infamous name Kala Pani due to the ill treatment that the Indian prisoners had to suffer there. There is a 30-minute documentary which highlights the history of Andaman Islands in deep, and it talks about the settlement and what the prisoners had to go through when they were living there. I highly recommend it and I have provided the link in the description below. The islands remained under the control of British India for a very long time. Then, in the Second World War, Japanese forces attacked the islands and captured it. The inhabitants of the islands who were first suffering under the British rule now had to suffer under the Japanese forces. हमको जिंदा मत छोड़ो सालो, हम कोई मंदिर का घंटा है कि कोई भी आके बजा जाता है. The Japanese forces then handed over the island to Subhash Chandra Bose. Netaji Bose and his Azad Hind Sena was an ally of the Japanese forces. After landing on the island, Netaji Bose renamed Andaman and Nicobar to Shahid and Swaraj Deep. However, the islands went back to British India after Japan lost World War II, and they remained with British India till India got independence on 1947. During the independence of India in 1947 and Burma, which is the present-day Myanmar, in 1948, the departing British announced their intentions to resettle Anglo-Indians and Anglo-Burmese on these islands to form their own nation. But by then, India was like, "Hey, तुम लोग का बहुत हो गया, तुम लोग चुपचाप निकलो अभी." The islands officially became a part of India in 1950 and were declared as Union Territory in 1956. Which brings us to, अभी ये islands पे रहता कौन है? अगर हम जनसंख्या की बात करें, डेमोग्राफिक्स, तो अंडमान एंड निकोबार जैसी शायद ही कोई जगह पूरे इंडिया में है. Because these islands were isolated from the rest of the world for a very long time, a lot of indigenous tribes developed here. Indigenous मतलब आदिवासी लोग. However, today there are only few Adivasi tribes left. Like everyone else in India, after coming in contact with the British, Adivasi लोगों का downfall start हो गया. As Britishers started filling in the Kalapani jail with prisoners from the mainland, they also started bringing laborers and servants to maintain the islands. Due to the encroachment policies of the British and the communicable disease that they carried, the Adivasi tribes started losing territory and their numbers started decreasing. ऐसा नॉर्थ अमेरिका और साउथ अमेरिका में भी हुआ था जब यूरोपियंस वहां गए थे. A lot of the local population had just died because of these diseases. The great Andamanese tribes, whose numbers before meeting the British used to be in 10,000s, are down to only 50 something people today. They are confined to a small island called Strait Island. Onge is another tribe whose numbers are down to 90 something. They are all living on Little Andaman Island. Then there is the Champagnes tribe which lives on the Great Nicobar Islands. The Jaravas of the Andaman Islands, they still live a hunting and gathering lifestyle. उनके यहाँ पे अभी तक farming भी invent नहीं हुआ है. But the most interesting tribe is the Sentinelese of the North Sentinel Island. These people stay on a 60 square kilometer island and are completely isolated from the rest of the world and have remained so for the last 30,000 years. They are very hostile to anyone trying to come near their islands, and they don't leave their islands either. They are considered the world's most isolated tribe. Apart from the Adivasi log, the population of the island consists mostly of immigrants who were brought since the colonial times, mostly as prisoners and laborers. During the 1971 Indo-Pak War, which led to the creation of Bangladesh, there were a lot of refugees that fled from Bangladesh into India. A lot of these refugees were also resettled on these islands. Bengali is the most spoken language, followed by Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam and Nicobarese. Hindi and English are, however, the official administrative languages of the region. Which brings us to our next part, politics and administration. ANI is a union territory, which means they don't have their own elected government but are administered directly by the central government. The government appoints a lieutenant governor who oversees the administration. There is only one Lok Sabha seat for the entire Andaman and Nicobar Islands. ANI is divided into 3 districts: North and Middle Andaman, South Andaman and Nicobar. Recently, our Prime Minister inaugurated the first ever submarine optical fiber cable which will allow for better internet connectivity throughout the islands. This will help with tourism which has been already growing on the islands. ANI is a hot spot for people interested in water sports and nature. Apart from tourism and its natural beauty, the islands are also strategically very important to India. The islands are close to Malacca Strait, which is the main shipping channel between Indian and Pacific Ocean, making it one of the busiest shipping channel in the world. The route is also considered world's most strategic military choke point. For example, India and its allies can impose a blockade on this channel, which will cut off China, whose economy significantly depends on this route. The safety, security and freedom of navigation in this area is very important for the world economy, as 90% of the world trade passes through this region. Due to this, the first and only Tri-Service Theatre Command of the Indian Armed Forces is based in Port Blair. Tri-Service matlab Army, Navy, Air Force, all 3 forces assembled under one command. Such is the importance of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new in the process, because I certainly did. मेरे को आइडिया ही नहीं था कि इंडिया में वोल्केनो भी है और एक ऐसा ट्राइब है जो 30,000 साल से किसी के कांटेक्ट में ही नहीं आया. As usual, this is only the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more to learn and so much more to explore. I strongly recommend you go out there and seek knowledge. If you are from Andaman and Nicobar Islands and you would like me to know something more about your region, please let me know in the comments. फिर से मिलेंगे नए वीडियो में. Until then, remember, वाचाल तर वाचाल.